welcome to the Red Chair Edition, where we just have conversation on some amazing topics. And I am grateful that it is the month of February where I get to talk about love. Now, everyone says that they are in love when it comes to the month of February because it's Valentine's. It's either you with someone that you're dating, or you're married, or maybe you're just friends and you're just trying to get to know each other. But the month of February always promotes love, and that's what I want to do. And I got a great brother of mine that gets to get on this conversation with me. That is not even from Florida, but he is in South Carolina or North Carolina, Cedric.
North Carolina, brother.
He is in North Carolina. We have Cedric Cobb.
Good family.
I'm doing good, Seth. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, brother. Doing great.
Man, it's the month of February, dude, and it's the month of love, dude. What kind of tips would you give people who are dating in this season, and also who are engaged transitioning into marriage? What kind of good tips you can give?
Man, I would tell them to make sure that they are exemplifying First Corinthians 13. I think of First Corinthians 13 love is a healthy love. It's patient. It's kind. It's not boastful. It doesn't, like the Bible says, real love keeps no record of wrong. That if you've not gone through any ebbs and flows in your relationships, that you're going to begin to find yourself navigating those in the future. If you're just starting to date, you in what we call the honeymoon phase, right? You're in that phase where everything is good, where everything is almost flowers, but you get into this phase where you don't have a good day at work. You have situations that come up, and people get to see the other nuances of what you are relationally and personality wise. And
Right.
from that perspective,
Yeah.
man, you can begin to navigate how to process that with another individual. And so it's almost like you begin to open up another shell of yourself, another part of yourself. And I think that would be both and I would say in marriage, man, make sure that you're still mirroring what you would mirror in dating. In the first year of marriage, it's very common for people to say, man, I didn't know that about this person. We didn't live together. Or I began to find some pet peeves I didn't like about my wife or my spouse or my this or that. Man, I know my wife and I personally experienced that. And you experience it in every phase. You experience it in dating. You're always moving from levels in intimacy, man. So the biggest tips I could give for anybody is that if you're not still practicing patience with your loved one or the person you're going to be moving into marriage with, if you're not practicing patience with the person you're dating, if the person that you're dating is in a hurry, tell them to slow down, get to know each other. If that person doesn't practice kindness both towards you and towards other people, if that person gets angry easy, like check those things, because when you see a person truly operating from a healthy perspective of love, man, it is a beautiful thing to see. And so my wife and I been married almost 8 years, and one of the things we always vowed to practice with one another was to practice First Corinthians 13 love towards one another. So we're always patient. When we're angry, we got to take a little breather. We got to catch ourselves, gather ourselves, because we have to remember we are God's children. I don't want to disrespect God's daughter. She doesn't want to disrespect God's son. And so understanding those nuances, man, that's my tip. That's my tip.
No, dude, I love it because you're dropping a lot of gems, man. I think our generation have a difficult time of really understanding what loves mean and what it means. And you said a key thing earlier is vulnerability. Vulnerability is a huge factor in dating, because you have to be open and willing to receive someone who's getting ready to who you're getting ready to expose your flaws to.
Yeah.
Most of the time, some people forget, like, in order to get to the truth who that person is, there needs to be some level of vulnerability and transparency.
Absolutely, because if it doesn't come on the front end, it will always be revealed on the back end.
Hold on, Sam. Again now, if it doesn't come on the back end, eventually it will come.
Yeah, on the front end, it will reveal on the back end. Listen, most people date and they're like, man, 2 months in, yo, let's go for this. 1 month in, let's go for this. Or taking very serious steps. You wouldn't give your treasure to somebody you knew would threw it in the trash. Right. So like, if that's the case, then why would you make an investment as deep as your heart in somebody who doesn't understand the value of time? Because ultimately, if somebody truly values time and truly values who they are and that they are a gift, then they won't be so easy or so quick to relinquish themselves or their bodies or their hearts to other individuals. The Bible says it like this: don't awaken love before it's time. In other words, be very, very mindful, be very cognizant about how quickly you allow your soul to begin to be open to another individual.
Man, that is so amazing, dude, because we need to truly understand that that starts off with friendship. You know,
Yes.
I talk about this before. I said, if the foundation is not built on friendship, then eventually it might not last.
Come
And
on.
I say that it might not last because everybody is different. But I've
Yeah.
seen relationships on friendship that started off, and I've seen relationship that started off either with a certain desire that affects
Yes.
the relationship in the long term. And what you're saying is key. Friendship is
Mhm.
important, and relationships, especially we're going into Valentine's Day, dude. There are
Yes.
people who feel like being single is a curse.
Come on.
Why is it important to embrace being single?
Man, I think being single is nothing more than the epic journey of discovering yourself. I think in singleness, especially if you're younger, like for example, when I was 18, I thought I had it all figured out. Genuinely, I grew up in church. I wanted to do music. I was a musician. I loved to sing. I was going to be Chris Brown. That was my goal at the time. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm a pastor at a church here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, doing ministry. Like my life looks totally different than what I thought it was going to be when I was 18. I think singleness gives you the opportunity to explore yourself, but also to know yourself well enough to know what you like and don't like, and even some of the areas that you cherish. And because when you get into dating, for example, maybe you cherish, you know, quality time with yourself. Maybe you're really big on self-care. Well, then you're not going to date somebody that makes you forfeit those things. But
Wow.
if
Wait,
you
wait, wait,
don't
hold on.
value
You're
those things,
you're not gonna date somebody that makes you forfeit.
yes, no. You listen. You never. The only way that you have to forfeit in a healthy way. The Bible says, "How can two walk together except they agree?" The reason it's important to walk in singleness is because singleness, first of all, allows you to come into agreement with yourself, who you are, who God has called you to be, who
Wow.
God has wired you to be. Then, when you begin to meet another person, you begin to discover people that are agreeable. And so, for example, I may get to see this beautiful young lady, and she may have a lot of things going for her, but there are two or three major things that are not agreeable with me, like her faith. Oh, you don't believe the same thing that I believe, but your great personality, you have all these things, but or you want to control the money and everything, or you want to take the lead on these certain things, and you
Yeah.
want me to just yield myself here. You'll find out what you're willing to compromise because of how deeply you know yourself. Because most people in their teen years are forfeiting all over the place. They're giving up their bodies, they're giving up their mind, their emotions. I know people that have tried relationships more than they've tried Jesus. Like they have they're like, oh, he hurt me, and we were together for 2-3 years, and
Wow.
and I'm like, man, I wish you would have taken that same investment and gone and learned a trade, gone and learned a skill, because now from 15 to 18, you lost developmental moments
Right.
in your adolescence because you chose to be blinded by a person that you thought had potential, but you weren't self-aware well enough. I think singleness generates self-awareness and a genuine understanding of the value that you possess. You don't even fully know what skills you have. For example, I know people who will say, man, I always wanted to do that, but I got married. Do you want to be the person who always wanted to try something, that had a dream you never went for because you felt like you had to rush and choose love? The Bible says not to be anxious for anything, but by everything, make sure you're praying, that you're making your requests known to the Lord, and not to and basically not to lean on your own understanding, even in relationships. Whose understanding are you leaning on? I did want to say another thing, Ramsey. The I think a major key, and you said something. Some people, why is this 2-month relationship getting into marriage successful and the other one not? I think one of the X factors in every relationship, and if you don't have this, you will fail. And I almost believe that this is 100% true. Adaptability. Adaptability. I think one of the major follies of marriages is adaptability. You like things your way.
Right.
Well, you end up marrying somebody that likes things their way, and you bypass the agreement phase. Are we good with each other on this? Are we good with each other on that? Do we like this? Do we like that? You would just swoon, by the person. Y'all were going out to date, and y'all never saw each other personally. You never saw the person's place, and now you're moving in together, and you're saying, man, I don't know if we can make this work because I'm not giving up that. But if you can ever come to a point and say, let's actually talk about this because I don't like that you do this. And then that person say, man, well, tell me what I can do to make this easier. You may not like it, but I don't want to give it up. So what does it look like to lower the frequency of it? And so now you begin to move into adaptability. And I think the most successful relationships are willing to practice healthy compromise, not unhealthy compromise. And every relationship has it.
And I like that because adaptability deals with communication. Yes. And they say the most thing that causes relationship not to prevail is the lack of communication.
Come on, man.
When it comes to you and your wife, and when you were dating or when you all were single, what was that communication like? How did you guys transition from being amateurs to being mature and to growing in who you guys are today?
Wow. That's a loaded question, man. I feel like me and my wife have a bit of a upper hand on some people because I met my wife in middle school. My wife and I have known each other for almost 19 years. I met her in 2002. Literally, my wife's from Fayetteville. I'm from a little town called Vanceboro, North Carolina. And my brother and my sister both went to Fayetteville State University, which is an HBCU here in North Carolina. And so I was the third in line. My brother was in the band. My sister was in the band. I played trumpet. And I ended up meeting this bomb, gorgeous, oh my gosh, she was everything. And I met my wife there. And so we actually were friends almost 7 years before we actually started dating each other. And I actually watched her walk through relationships.
Hold on, Sed. Y'all was friends for 7 years.
Yes. So literally, man, we dated her senior year. So I mean, like we started dating her senior year in high school. And we just been growing ever since, man. And I think for me, because we got along so well, because I knew her relational quirks, I knew what some of her exes were like and things of that nature. It actually allowed me to, my dad always taught me, you can learn two things from a man, what to do, what not to do. And so from some of these pitfalls, it was almost like I didn't even realize I was taking subconscious notes like, oh yeah, we're not doing that. Oh, we're definitely not doing that. Oh, we're going to do that. And so I felt like I was passing a open book test when I began to date. And so for her, she loved quality time. And one of her love languages was words of affirmation. I'm a physical touch guy. I'm a quality time guy. And so me and Cuddles we go along really well, right? My wife, it's time and words. So, to make a long story short, I learned that the way to my wife's heart was to have communication, not just sub-level communication, high-level communication. And so we talked about everything. Nothing was off the table, and we were very open, and we never cast judgment on where the person was, but we always allowed God to guide our relationship.
And I love that too, because that leads to another part that I want to just break down real quick is mentorship. I think our generation, we overlook mentorship in a way because while you're single, you should be mentored by a woman who's married, right? And then while you're in marriage, you should be mentored by someone who's been married longer than you and they have a healthy relationship. So my question to you would be, when you think about mentorship, what are some great ways to discover the type of mentorship you're going to need along the way as your process of dating and getting into marriage?
Man, I think one of the healthiest processes is looking at your main circle first, the first layer of your circle, and seeing if there are relationships that are present around you that you feel like you can actually begin to draw wisdom from, and even maybe begin to become a little vulnerable, but allow there to be some discovery and say, hey, we're interested in just hearing some advice. And what becomes advice maybe becomes a deeper relationship. You move from a surface level with that couple into a more open level with that person, and then maybe moving into a request of mentorship. But also, I would say, be careful to date somebody who doesn't already have a mentor, who doesn't already have a voice in their life. Why would you want somebody that's not teachable? Because
hold on, Sed. Why would you want somebody that's not teachable? Yes, I love that. Because that cut times off. It already gets you to where you need to be in that person. Like
Facts.
investing into someone that's not willing to invest into themselves. Like,
Absolutely. First off, mentorship shows you that the person is malleable. The mentorship shows you that the person is in a healthy space and
yeah,
ready to one either better themselves
yeah,
or even has some certain goals that they're wanting to ascertain to. And so
yeah,
I think for me, mentorship is a great sign for any person dating, male or female. If your girl don't have somebody that she can talk to, I'm not talking about the girlfriend that's ready to put Vaseline on and some running shoes. I'm talking about somebody that actually helps shape their emotional level, helps them deal with things cognitively, where they almost like a sub-level therapist. Like, who do you have in your life that you turn to?
right.
Because if they don't have anybody in their life to turn to, then they're looking for a relationship to turn to, which means they're looking to dump their dysfunction on another person.
Woo!
And so you
They're
have to be,
looking to dump their dysfunction on another person. Watch
yeah,
out!
man. Yeah, man. If you're not in a position where you can healthily deliver your dysfunction to another person that can actually help with that, then don't get into another relationship because it requires you to process, man. Like, and then the other side of it is don't date somebody that just came out of a relationship that's ready to go back into another one.
No,
Like, just to be very honest, like, you can learn a lot from a person based on their mentor or based on their ability to address trauma. Or breakups are traumatic at some level cognitively. You've given a portion of yourself, and now you're not with that person anymore. There's something that has happened in your brain, and you have to deal with that. I don't care. You can say, "I get over things quick." I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. That means you just put it under the rug. That means you store. That means you bottle. Who have you talked to? And so for me, mentorship is extremely vital. We have, even when my wife and I were dating, I've always had leaders double my age, or in my life, I've always had millionaires, lawyers, people around me that have been able to shape the way I think.
yeah,
And I think the Bible says it best: in the multitude of counsel there is safety. That doesn't mean people. I think sometimes we take that and we say, man, have like 30 people to give you advice. Now you might be confused by that, but
yeah.
be around somebody that can give you a multiplicity of language.
Wow.
And I think I think that's huge. Yeah, you need to make sure that the person you're connected to actually wants counsel and wants it at a multitudinal level.
Actually wants counseling and wants it at the multitude at that level.
Yeah,
Said,
that
how can
magnitude's imperative.
people connect with you? How can people get involved with you?
Oh man, well listen. So you can follow me on Instagram, Cedric Cobb Music. I also sing, I produce. I have a business, CEO of a company called Creative Concepts, with a K, on both creative and then concepts. But then also, man, you can email me, Cedric Cobb Music at gmail.com. You can follow me on Facebook, wherever. I'm on Clubhouse. We be on there too. So look your boy up, Cedric Cobb. We'll be having conversations. My wife and I've actually we've been doing we do counseling for couples and stuff like that. And so, man, you can connect with us pretty much anywhere. We got a lot of great stuff coming out this year, from books to podcasts to new music, all of it.
Get involved with Ced. This is Cedric Cobbs here hanging out with me on the Red Chair Edition. And remember, thank you so much for watching. Your experience matters. See you the next Red Chair Edition.